Good
Hey,
morning, Susan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. It's a good day. We're both in North Carolina, so you've got the same gorgeous weather I have, right?
Yep, weather makes a big difference right now, doesn't it?
It does. We've got our windows open. Oh, so you can probably hear lawnmowers and
Yeah,
things.
I've got a lot of birds outside right now, so
Nice.
yeah.
That's lovely. So, how have you been coping? We're on, is it week 5? I don't even know what week it
Yeah,
is
I think it's
now.
about week 5 for me. I came back from shooting Quilting Arts TV. That was the week that everything kind of blew up and got really serious. And so as soon as I got home, um, one trip to the grocery store, and then I was in, and I've been staying in except for, every week and a half to 2 weeks going to the store. And but we're really fortunate that we just moved into a new house in December, as you know, in Chapel Hill, and it's a modernist house and it has a lot of glass. So for me, that makes a huge difference in my mental health because I can see outside. It's like you're surrounded by nature, and now everything is green here in North Carolina. So with the exception of the pollen, which has been horrific, um, I feel so fortunate that I'm in a place that I feel like I'm not trapped inside at all.
Right.
And
Are
I
you
have a
taking
great
walks?
neighborhood. Yeah, I have a great neighborhood for walking,
Mhm.
which is good. I've been trying really hard to do about a 2.5 mile route once a day. And that has always picked me up. As you know, I do that beauty on my morning walk thing. I've been doing that now for
Long
uh,
time.
9 years. In fact,
Ah,
today's my
whoa.
yeah, my mother's birthday is today, so it makes me think about that. But yeah, I started doing that after my mother died when I was really depressed, and she died very suddenly, and I fell into a deep depression and a creative slump. And so I started doing this beauty on my morning walk thing where I take pictures when I have something I find really interesting or beautiful, and I started sharing it. And I think that was a really interesting lesson for me because so many people contacted me and said, that helps me to see you taking these pictures of things. And it's something I look forward to. And a lot of people started doing it themselves too. It was a practice of gratitude.
Yeah, it is. You know what I pulled out? I have a really fancy journal with handmade paper, and it's got a beautiful beaded cover on it. I have a lot of blank books with fancy paper and covers, but this one I've been keeping for about 10 years or so, I think, but only rarely pull it out. But it's my gratitude journal. So 2 or 3 weeks ago, I pulled it out and started, every 2 or 3 days, I'll write something in it, finding the things I'm grateful for. And then I actually write a journal entry. Before it was more, I would find quotes or just write a list of things I'm grateful. And now I'm doing journal entries because I think this time is really interesting. It will be really interesting to go back years from now and read what we did.
Yeah. And what we were thinking about and
Mm-hmm.
how we were thinking about it too. We've been telling our kids, my husband was kind of an oopsie baby and his parents were they lived during the Depression, and my father-in-law fought in World War II, so they were a lot older and had gone through really difficult times, and also like Dust Bowl in Oklahoma. But when she was a little girl, had scarlet fever and was quarantined for I think like 6 months. Yeah, they put her up in a room like in the attic, and her mother was the only one who went up and took her food and saw her. And I don't know all the details, but I remember, and Rob remembers talking to her about it. So we've been telling our kids, who are adult young women now, about that, and about how, every generation goes through certain hardships. And, I think about what it would have been like to be a young woman during World War II starting, when all of your young men friends were going off to the war, maybe to die,
Right.
and how traumatic that must have been. I'm like, we can afford, we're lucky. We have a house, we have food. We just have to stay put for a while. It's not that much of a hardship when you think about what people around the world are going through right now.
Right. Right. We are so lucky. We just, I'm so lucky that I don't have to worry about where my next mortgage payment and whether I can get food or not, and there's so many people who are. My daughter just lost her job.
Yeah, and mine too, right?
Yeah, and they just moved into a new, twice as expensive apartment because it's in walking distance to that job, and was going to save them like 3 or 4 hours of commute time because they only have one car. So there's a little bit of panic going on there. But at the same time, she was like, after she finished panicking, she called me that night and said, I'm so grateful for such a support system, because I had happened to be on a group chat with my siblings when she sent me the text. Actually, your husband sent me the text and said, she's falling apart. And I relayed the information to my siblings, and most of them reached out to her, and offered support and help. And we're just, man, it's so good to have good people in your life.
Yeah, and I think we all fall apart at different times and over different things, and we all have to be patient with each other. And it's a grieving process. It's grieving for, it's fear too, but it's grieving for what we've lost, and everybody's lost different things, and some people have lost a lot more than others, but everybody, I think, is going through a little bit of shock and grieving. It's a difficult thing, and I think it's difficult for creative people too. A lot of us are highly empathetic people.
How are you managing that? What are you doing to cope?
I'm trying to limit the amount of news I take in. I'm, a journalist. My husband's a journalist. And so we are kind of trained to watch the news, read the news, absorb the news, process it. And so I've kind of slowed that down a little bit, and I'm still doing a lot of reading, but I'm not watching as much because I think that's more upsetting to me. I'm trying really hard to get enough sleep, which has been hard for me, menopausally. It's been hard for years.
Let's not even talk about hot flashes all week long.
But one thing I've started doing is before I go to bed, I think what happens to me is I watch the news and I get ready for bed, and then my mind is spinning and churning. I've started watching shows on like PBS, or I'm watching Poldark right now, which is a historic drama. And I watch it for at least a half an hour. So my mind is completely absorbed with something else that's outside of reality. And it's really helping me. I'm not waking up as much in the middle of the night.
Good.
So yeah, that's making a difference. I'm exercising. I'm trying not to eat too much sugar, all those things. And I've really struggled though with being creative and doing my work. I mean, normally I would be like, oh, look at all this time I have in my studio. I should be able to get, a million things done, but I'm finding my thoughts are just spinning and racing, and it's hard to focus. So I've been, making masks like you. Lots of masks. I started making them for the local hospital when they put out a call. And then by the time I got a batch done, they didn't need them anymore. I think they've maybe been inundated, which is good. But so I've given mine to my neighbors. I'm still sewing them for some neighbors. I'm knitting. Knitting for me I used to knit a lot and do fancier things before I started quilting. Like 30 years ago, I was a knitter more. And I've stopped knitting all the fancy stuff, but I do dishcloths, and I actually have some here. So I do these little simple dishcloths.
50 I think I have a couple of yours.
Yeah, fabulous. 50 rows, and it's just knitting. So I can do it while I watch TV in the night. We've been trying to do family movie night because we've got both the adult daughters here with us. Doing something really repetitive has always helped me de-stress and keeps me from ripping my cuticles to shreds.
Ouch. Ouch.
That's what I do when I'm really nervous.
Yeah. We had my adult son who's home and working hard. He's doing a lot of outside work for neighbors and for us. But I can tell he's going crazy now. He's been building a fire. We have a fire pit in the backyard. And the last 2 nights he's been melting bottles in the fire. He'll stay out there till like 11 or 12, just moving it around with tongs, building up the coals. I'm like, it would be so much fun if we had real stuff.
Is he melting plastic bottles?
No, glass.
Really? I
Yeah.
didn't know you could do that in a regular fire. I thought it'd be hotter than that.
Yeah, they'll melt. They don't anneal properly, so they'll melt and get in weird shapes, but then they'll shatter afterwards.
Interesting.
But it is kind of fun. I'm like, whatever keeps you occupied.
Right.
And it was so pretty out last night. This is bat season. I love watching bats at dusk, and they were all right over our head. I love it. Mostly because I really, really, really hate bugs. And they eat so many.
They're eating the mosquitoes. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time, you look at bats now and you probably think about the coronavirus because they think that it may have started with bats, and yeah.
No,
I
I
love
don't have
bats.
any interaction with them, so
Right.
that never occurred to me. I think I'll not think about it, and I'll still love the bats.
We've had them in houses before. When we lived in our 1700 house in Charlottesville, we had bats that got in through the chimney
Mm-hmm.
inside the house, which is
That would not be good.
very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. So how are you dealing with looking forward to the future?
I think I'm just not thinking about the future right now. I'm trying to think a 1 week out. A lot of my things have been canceled, a lot of shows, a lot of teaching, pretty much everything through till August has been canceled.
Hmm.
So
Still got a gig in June and August that haven't been canceled, but I think what I'm doing is still planning for everything, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure they'll all be canceled. But
yeah.
it just, like I was just on the phone with a guild for a September gig, and they were planning, can you add a lecture in? And then at the end of the conversation, it was also, and we know it might entirely be canceled, and that's okay. We'll reschedule if it is.
Right. And I think, everybody's planning that way, but it's got to be really scary for the big quilt shows to be trying to think about things for this fall, and we just don't know. I mean, everything could be a lot better and more normal, whatever that is, or it could be really bad, and we just don't know, do we?
Yeah, I think unless we get widespread testing and tracking, that there's no way to fix this until there's a vaccine. So
yeah.
But at the same time, I choose to have hope. I'm a very realistic optimist, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I choose to think of all the good things that could happen, knowing that probably this other thing will happen, and we'll deal with it.
Right. Yeah. And I think the other thing I think a lot of artists have been doing is doing something other than what their primary focus is.
Yeah.
So like I've been doing the masks, I've been doing the dish towels, I've been doing these paper mache eggs. I think I've got some of them here too, if I can reach. I'll show you.
I didn't know it. Did you paper mache over plastic eggs?
No, these were paper mache eggs that I bought like years ago. And
Hold them really still up to the camera.
I'm coming closer. And I can send you some pictures of these too.
Those are so pretty. No, we can see them good.
Yeah. So they're just paper mache, and they've been really fun. I used to do Ukrainian Easter eggs. This one was white, and I just used a Sharpie on it, and it's like cross hatching.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved doing Ukrainian Easter eggs when I was a kid, and I think that's interesting because so much of it's a dye process, and it's a resist process, similar to what I do on fabric now too, sometimes with batiking. So it's a fun thing to work on something that's three-dimensional versus flat fabric, and it offers different challenges, but it's been fun for me to do, and I've still got a bunch more eggs to do, so I'm going to keep doing them all in different shades of blue.
Ooh, that will be so pretty.
Yeah.
Pretty. Yeah, I think my other thing to do, because I haven't been able to do any artwork either, is like everybody else in the entire world, I'm playing with sourdough bread. And I had a really, really gorgeous loaf last night. It was amazing. And I'll never be able to do it again after this ends, because it takes so much, not concentrated time, but you just have to keep coming back to it over and over, and you have to be around, and I'm never around. So that's been good. And just, the videos. I'm doing this and other video editing, and it's, it's why I get showered. So,
Well, you're more of an extrovert than me too, and I think you need to talk to other people more, and so this is a good way to do that too, to
I
stay in
do.
touch and feel that connection with other people, which is really important right now.
It's keeping me sane for sure.
Yeah.
And not forgetting my antidepressant medicine. That is a huge thing.
Mm.
But since I've realized that that's what was happening, everything's been on a much more even keel, which is
So important. I have a lot of depression in my family too, so I know how big a deal that is.
yeah.
It's really challenging at times like this when you have all this additional stress, more people in your house, more complications with family, to make sure that you stay on top of it.
Yeah. In my family, it turns out that as long as we're medicated, we're fine. And we're also really high functioning without it.
Mhm.
But my siblings and I have all learned recently how helpful it is
Yeah.
that, and just that little bit of chemical adjustment in the brain that is missing those chemicals just is so nice. And what's interesting, one of the things I actually really love about this time is that my family relationships aren't driving me crazy like they often do. They're getting better. There's a lot of things really getting better. My siblings and parents and I are all talking to each other once a week, and we're getting closer. The cousins are the teenagers are doing a role-playing game online 2 or 3 times a week together, and they've never really interacted. My siblings live, we're just so spread out all over the country. We text all the time, but seeing each other's faces all the time, and just that's been really nice. And my family, in almost every evening, having dinner together, and then doing something after dinner, whether it's playing a game or reading out loud, or last night marshmallows at the fire pit. Just
We've started
been
doing,
really nice.
yeah, we're doing family tea time. So I spent 1 year in college at University of St. Andrews in Scotland, and
Yeah,
got really hooked on tea and the idea of tea, not the drink itself, but the ritual. And it's been fun for us, and everybody looks forward to it now. So if I try to ever skip tea, they're all there
you're
demanding
in
it.
trouble.
It's not just about the
So
food.
what do you do? Describe it.
I make some light snacks. Sometimes it's just bread and jam, or crackers and cheese and sausage or something like that. And we make a hot drink, and we sit down at the table with nice china and our tea or coffee, and we talk, and we have a little snack. And sometimes we like to play dominoes. There's a game, I think we always called it chicken foot.
Oh
It's a
yeah.
really, really simple dominoes game, and we just clear the table off and play a couple games. And yeah, it's fun. We've been doing that more too. It's nice to have those rituals. It kind of centers the day and gives you a little bit of structure, which is falling apart in a big way right now, with everybody being in their pajamas most of the day.
And it's also a lovely time to just stop everything and connect with people.
Right.
I kind of think that's what it's all about. When I was teaching in New Zealand, when we teach here, are you the same way? It's like 6 hours, and I'm cramming everything I can into those 6 hours. It's go, 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 go. And when I was in New Zealand, it was 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in the middle of the go, 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 and they're all like, but it's tea time. And they all took off. Like, where are you going?
Yeah, it comes to a stop, and they have their tea or their coffee sometimes in the morning.
Yeah.
And tea in the afternoon. But yeah, and for me, it's a little bit of jolt of caffeine too that helps, because that's that low point in the afternoon when your energy starts to kind of lag.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think a lot of us are trying really hard to make family relationships work, and to get along, because we had a little bit of a kick in the butt. This is like a reminder that life is short. We should love each other. We should treat each other well. We should try to get along, and that there are things that are a lot more important than all the petty little things we tend to argue about. That's a good part of it, a good side to it too. if there's any silver lining on this.
Yeah, that is a lovely thing to think about, that this is a time to hit pause and reset and to reconsider what's really important. I don't know how to keep that good part of this when we go back to normal. I'm usually running around like crazy with the places my kids go. And I hate to limit the things that they're doing because they love them so much. You know, I have a musician, and I have a kid who does tricking, which is not a competitive sport, but it's a really great sport that he just adores, and it's really community building for him and his friends. But it involves a lot of time of me driving people places. You
Yeah.
know? And
But I
which
think,
also means the family's not together.
yeah, I don't think it's going to ever completely go back, though. I think that these are powerful memories that are being made, and people are thinking in a different way. um, I think everybody's going to come away with this with a little bit different perspective than they had before.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we'll get back the good stuff and put some of the things that are not so great aside. I hope.
Be lovely, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we can commit to working towards that for
Mhm.
sure. Is there anything that you want to say to people before we go?
I guess I would just say that, I think it's important to take care of yourself, whatever that means. Be patient, be soft with yourself, and not be too hard. Do what you need to do this is really, in a lot of ways, about survival for us as individuals, as families, as communities, as a country, as a world, that we need to just kind of hang in there right now. Do what we think, do what the scientists are telling us, do what is important, and what makes us all happy, makes us happy being nice to each other, and hang in there.
Yeah, look out for each other too. I mean, look
Mhm.
around. Even if we're hurting in some way, there's always a way we can reach out and find somebody. I don't know if it's because there's always somebody struggling more, but when you reach out and find that person and help them, it lifts everybody. So we can do that. Well, thank you so much for
Thanks.
spending time this morning with me. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you.
Good. Love you.
Mwah! Love you too.
Bye.